let's keep going. You deserve what you've earned, and you've earned a hell of a lot more than you're getting paid now. Thank you very much.
Neil, it's the same thing with the unions.
That's right.
They get their little 5%. They get another 2%. They get another 3%, 4%. Then all of a sudden, they're making more money than the people that own the company.
President Joe Biden has just made history, joining striking auto workers on the picket line as a sitting president. And while that's going on, Donald Trump is attempting his own cheap imitation. So in this video, I'm going to get to shortly here some clips from Biden's appearance at the strike. And then I'll get to Donald Trump, what's going on there, just the immense lie at the center of it. And then I'll get to, at the end, just an incredible clip from Status Coup, credit to them, interviewing auto workers on the picket line and what they think about Donald Trump. It's very interesting. So first here, let me get to the appearance from Joe Biden.
You know, this is a historic moment. The first time in our country's history that a sitting USA president has came out and stood on the picket line.
You guys, UAW, you saved the automobile industry back in 2008 and before. Made a lot of sacrifices, gave up a lot, and the companies were in trouble. But now they're doing incredibly well. And guess what? You should be doing incredibly well too. The simple problem. Wall Street didn't build the country, the middle class built the country. Unions built the middle class. That's a fact. So let's keep going. You deserve what you've earned, and you've earned a hell of a lot more than you're getting paid now. Thank you very much.
Pretty crazy moment, seeing a sitting president actually join striking workers on the picket line. Now, you know, the skeptics will just say, oh, this is just symbolism. He just wants to get their endorsement because, again, the UAW has not yet endorsed Joe Biden. You could say, to their credit, maybe that's part of the reason why Joe Biden felt compelled to accept the invitation by the UAW to join the picket line here. But this isn't just symbolism. This isn't just talk. Under Joe Biden, the NLRB has been fantastic. The National Labor Relations Board, again and again, siding with workers in disputes with employers because of the ongoing union busting that's been happening for decades by employers that often is not assessed properly. Because usually under the NLRB, you have people running the show who side with corporations. Under Joe Biden, he has put people in there who actually look at the issue of workers' rights and consider it objectively. And you have this recent ruling that I've talked about in previous videos, but this really shows you how fantastic the NLRB has been under Joe Biden. The American Prospect here with their headline, Biden's NLRB brings workers' rights back from the dead. Going on to right here, the board ruled that when a majority of a company's employees file union affiliation cards, the employer can either voluntarily recognize their union or, if not, ask the board to run a union recognition election. If, in the run-up to or during that election, the employer commits an unfair labor practice, such as illegally firing pro-union workers, which has become routine in nearly every such election over the past 40 years, as the penalties have become negligible, the board will order the employer to recognize the union and enter forthwith into bargaining. Essentially saying, if an employer union busts, they will be forced to recognize the union. So no longer this back and forth of the union busting going on, then it has to go to the NLRB, they have to look into it. No, if there is union busting going on, there is not going to be a repeat election. They will be forced at that point to recognize the union. This is a massive step forward for labor, and this is happening under Joe Biden. So there, of course, are proper critiques of Joe Biden. You could discuss his stance when it came to rail workers last year. He's not a perfect president, of course, obviously. And by the way, the American Prospect has done a fantastic job both being critical of Joe Biden and, when it's necessary, pointing out the things that have gone right. But that doesn't mean you can ignore the obvious differences here, especially once we get to Donald Trump. So Donald Trump is also going to give his own speech to auto workers. We'll get to the reality in a second. But he's skipping the GOP debate on Wednesday, which is tomorrow. But I believe the speech is tonight. regardless, he's not talking to union workers. So this is just like the information that has come out has just been compiling about this speech. First, let me get to how media, or at least in this case, CNN, is, as Aaron Rupar writes here, is Trump is playing CNN like a fiddle. The CNN coverage here is ridiculous, and I'll get to breaking down just how ridiculous it is.
Now, Donald Trump himself has clashed with unions in the past, but their argument now is that he is pro-worker. So expect to hear this pivot in his messaging towards that general election, talking about those, as MJ mentioned, the electric vehicle policies, the green policies of the Biden administration. Trump likely to be slamming those policies and saying that he is more pro-worker, that's going to kill jobs, in fact, in Michigan. But again, it is going to be interesting to see here. This is huge political ramifications. And again, as MJ said, the UAW has not yet endorsed a candidate. Trump himself already posting on Truth Social that they should be endorsing him. That would be obviously a huge win if that were to happen, Manu.
I will delete my channel off of YouTube if the UAW endorses Donald Trump. That's how confident I am that that will not happen. The idea that the reporter here even opens up the possibility that the UAW could endorse Trump is completely insane. It doesn't take into context the reality of Trump's anti-union history, not to mention, doesn't mention how the UAW president slammed Donald Trump just last week, saying that the economy enriches people like Donald Trump at a worker's expense. The UAW hates Trump. Why would they have any shot at endorsing him? There's no pushback on anything that she's saying here. Trump, pushing himself as pro-worker, no pushback on that at all. No pushback on the idea that green jobs are stealing jobs away from Americans. No pushback at all. Just uncritically repeating Trump's talking points for him on CNN. It really is amazing. So let me break down how crazy this idea is about Trump's speech and how he's pro-worker. So it turns out, this is from Alex Press, who's a labor reporter. Trump is going to Drake Enterprises, a non-union truck parts supplier. And he's going there at the invitation of their management. Does this sound like a man who is fighting for the workers? Not to mention, this speech is organized by the National Right to Work Foundation. This is an anti-union group funding this speech or organizing this speech for Trump to give a pro-worker speech. You really have to be just completely unaware of what the hell has gone on under Trump and since to think that Trump is pro-worker. The organizers of Trump's scab event, the National Right to Work Foundation, are also working with Starbucks to decertify our unions. Starbucks, which has spent most of its 50-year history pretending to be progressive, is once again in lockstep with Trump. So Trump is working on behalf of management, on behalf of billionaires, on behalf of the wealthy. He does not care about workers. Just to be clear on right to work, so 27 states have right to work laws in place that prevent private sector unions from collecting fees from all members, which helps to decimate these unions, lowering the standards when it comes to benefits, when it comes to wages. And the proof is clear on that. So the average worker in states with right to work laws makes $5,971 or 12.2% less annually than workers in states without right to work. And there are also other factors here, including lower rates of health insurance coverage in states with right to work, higher poverty and infant mortality rates, less investment in education, higher workplace fatalities, so on and on and on. When you have states that have less unions, essentially, where unions have less power, you have workers making less, and their standard of living is worse. And this is who is organizing the Trump speech. It really is amazing. And on Trump, some of his history here. So, in case it's not clear on Trump's position on right to work, here it is very clearly laid out. This is from 2015.
Talk to us about the right to work and laws that we have.
You got to have right to work. You got to have right to work. What they put you through was incredible, actually. To think that Boeing almost could have said, "Hey, we're not coming."
You got to have right to work. You got to have right to work. Okay. I mean, if it wasn't already clear from who's organizing Trump's speech, it's very clear that Trump is anti-union. Now, also very clear based on what unions are saying about Trump. So Trump says he always had auto workers' backs. Union leaders say his first-term record shows otherwise. So this is actually a recent piece by the Associated Press here. Mark McManus, president of the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters Union, said in a statement last week that Trump, quote, tried to gut the Labor Relations Board under his administration to undo the safeguards that protect working families. Michigan AFL-CIO President Ron Bieber told the Associated Press in an emailed statement that the board was stacked with anti-worker appointees who trampled on collective bargaining rights. The union leaders also point to unfavorable U.S. Supreme Court rulings under a conservative majority that grew during Trump's term. The nation's high court has dealt a number of blows to unions, most recently ruling against unionized drivers who walked off the job with their trucks full of wet cement, allowing a civil suit against them to go forward. And by the way, this goes on and on and on. There are so many examples of Donald Trump and his administration being anti-union that it's absurd that anybody could possibly think that he is pro-worker. There's another piece here in The Guardian by Stephen Greenhouse. Trump stabbed labor over and over. Now he says he supports striking auto workers. So tons and tons of examples. I've covered a lot of them in previous videos, so I don't want to, retread all that information again, but I link to all my sources below the video in the description box on YouTube. You can read through this if you want. If you don't believe me, just, Supreme Court cases, other examples, rulings, it just goes on. There's so much. Now, a couple last things, more from Trump himself. This is back in 2008. This is 2 weeks after the UAW made massive concessions to the big three automakers. Here is what he said about unions.
I'm sitting behind my desk signing
they
these
expect
checks.
it, right?
They expect
December
it.
rolls around and I think Don's going to be good to me.
Neil, it's the same thing with the unions.
That's right.
They get their little 5%. They get another 2%. They get another 3%, 4%. Then all of a sudden, they're making more money than the people that own the company.
Really? All of a sudden, they're making more than the people that own the company? Reminder, the UAW is fighting for pay increases because there's the big three CEOs collectively made 40% more, just them alone, over 4 years, compared to the auto workers who made 6% more over the same period. 40% versus 6%. The auto workers are the ones doing the actual work. It really is incredible that anybody could possibly make this argument. Like, what? Please find me a massive company or a mid-sized company, any company, where the owner or the CEO is making less than the average worker. It doesn't exist. Now let's get to this last thing here. This is from Status Quo. They're always on the ground in these situations, so a lot of credit to them for always having people at strikes like this. Here is one of the reporters speaking to a couple of striking UAW workers and getting their thoughts about Donald Trump. This is pretty interesting.
No, I don't think that Trump is pro-labor. I mean, it's just that simple. He's got a history, a very, very long, sordid history of not paying his workers. He's got a lot of people kind of chomping at the bit, trying to get paid as it is now. It's not paying his lawyers. As far as labor is concerned, it doesn't matter where he goes to speak. None of us are going to believe it.
It's very strange, if he was trying to get with the union and you're going to a non-union shop, that doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. So I don't know really what he's aiming for there.
All of a sudden, they're making more money than the people that own the company. This was his comment 2 weeks after the deal you guys made back in 2008. Does that sound like a pro-union?
It's very strange.
Well, here's the thing. Once again, as we were discussing earlier, mathematically that doesn't add up in the slightest. I mean, you could make it 100%, 200%, 300%. We would still not be touching even remotely close to. I mean, literally, it's a fraction of a percent of these CEOs' pay. If you doubled my pay, it wouldn't be a fraction of what they make in like 10 or 15 minutes.
These workers see right through Donald Trump. So when Trump claims, as he has many times, and I guarantee you he will in his speech, that, just the head of the union is against him. No, the workers are really with him. That's why he's speaking to non-union workers at a company where he was invited by management. But no, the workers are really with him. Understand that he is full of crap. It's very clear based on what the workers themselves know about him. It's also very clear just based on Trump's record. With his power, all he has done is work to destroy unions. The idea that Trump is pro-worker at all is completely insane.